Hello, welcome to Friends at Film Camp, the show where two friends gab by the fire about our fun film perspectives. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Luke.
Today we're talking about Inside, which is the new Bo Burnham special.
The Bo Burnham special was written, directed, and stars Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
And was released on Netflix May 30th this past year, and reflects Bo Burnham over the past year trying to make a special inside of one room.
So, before we get into it, what is your history with, Bo Burnham as a person?
All my friends tell me he's funny. I watched him once and laughed, and then I've never thought about him really after until he was in...
Promising Young Woman?
Until he was in Promising Young Woman,
yeah,
exactly.
He was good in that.
And I liked that movie so much. He was just normal good actor in that movie, so... It's like he didn't stand out any different than what a normal good actor would. But because I liked that movie so much, I liked him in it.
Yeah, so Bo Burnham is he's been around, especially in internet spaces, for a really long time. Basically as long as I have. So I've always heard about him around. But kind of back in the day, his humor was more shock humor, and it's very I don't know, what I think of as young guy humor. It's just a lot of penises, a lot of I just a lot of jokes about dicks, and I just don't find jokes about dicks funny. It's just not my thing. So while I've known that he's funny because I've seen short clips and things from his specials and stuff that are very funny, sort of isolated jokes. Anytime I've tried to watch a special of his before this, I just kind of get to the penis jokes, and I'm this just isn't for me. Furthermore, Luke knows this about me. I hate song comedy, but not inherently. The reason I hate song comedy is because I find it's normally an excuse for very lazy jokes. But
I think song comedy is the hardest form of comedy to do, or one of the hardest forms, because you don't just have to be a funny comedian, you have to be a good songwriter as well, which means you have to be a master of two very different skills.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do.
Before this special, his earlier specials just weren't my thing, and they didn't hold my attention. But I very much enjoyed this one, in large part because I find the songs very catchy. And I am so curious. I have no idea what you're going to think of this, so I want you to tell me if you liked it or not.
The special?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say the word like. I don't really want to watch it again.
Really?
But I think about it. I just kind of think about it a lot.
That's interesting. See,
although I do like the music, and I like listening to the music.
Okay,
but
so
you've been
listening to the music separate from the special?
Yes.
That makes sense. I've been doing that too. I've found it a lot. Honestly, I kind of think of it as a musical. My experience with it is very similar to Hamilton, where I find the songs very catchy, and then there's sort of more of a narrative in the song than there is in just regular music. And so I find them to be very good doing the dishes playlist, because if I put them on in order, it's I remember I told you this before, it's kind of between a song and a podcast.
Okay.
So that has been my experience with this, and it's part of the reason. Before we got on this call, I was telling Luke I'd seen this 5 times. It's part of the reason I have seen it 5 times, is that 1, the songs get stuck in my head, and 2, I can put it on in the background, and yeah, it's like a very good background thing to do while I'm sewing or cleaning or whatever. Not that I didn't give it my full attention the first time, but now that I've seen it 5 times, I know what's happening.
No, I think that kind of goes back to my point before about how I wouldn't say I like this, or I think the special is I like it in the way I like something like the movie Spy, which I think is funny and rewatchable.
Yeah.
I don't really want to rewatch this. In the same way, I kind of don't want to rewatch La La Land. Because it was such it's more of a experience. And kind of once you're through the experience, it's not the same. Or I don't think it'll be the same again.
Yes.
So it's just something that kind of happens and then you move on. And for me, that was what La La Land was to me, and that's what this is for me.
Yeah, that hasn't been my experience with it at all, but like I totally get what you mean. And I can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah. So, okay, let's start with the first song, which is Content. Yeah, it's a good first song because kind of back to relating this to sort of like a musical. There isn't a narrative throughout all the songs as you would have in a musical, but I find there is the what's that thing called, the curve of like the rising action and then the climax and then the
I don't know, you're the media major.
Fuck, I don't know what that curve is called, but it has the same rising intensity and climax, and then the lessening of tension as like a normal narrative would. Yeah. So this is a good place for us to start. That's like relatively light compared to kind of where we end up sometimes. Sorry, you go.
I think Content does such a great job of setting up what this is. Yeah. As in, it's him alone in a room, singing some songs, making us some content about what he's been thinking about over this year, making stuff. Mm-hmm. And it has a cool transition, or not transition. It has a cool effect with the light disco ball.
Oh, so yeah, the disco ball is a really good idea. Things.
And it has a thing that appears many times in the show with the abrupt ending. Yeah. The songs just, it almost feels like they're unfinished, but intentionally unfinished. Yeah. Like they were never meant to have anything more.
Which I think is part of, so there's a lot of different themes in this, and I've seen a lot of people, mostly on TikTok, but also with my friends who've seen the special, have very strong reactions to this. Not in like in regards to like its themes, because there's certain themes in this special which are like relations to content, the process of making, relations to the camera, to the digital, that are to me, which I see. I don't know if I think my perspective is skewed because I just came out of an entire year art course in which I've been making experimental films and a lot of digital content, and the entire course was about all of these themes that he's talking about in this. So from my perspective, some of the stuff he's talking about is very obvious to me and almost surface level. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because he's presenting this for a very different audience than somebody who just came out of a year-long course where all they did was think about digital art and the relation between art and the camera and such. But yeah, I did find sometimes, for me, his commentary was a little bit surface level, but not in a way that bothered me, just in a way that it hasn't really, I haven't personally found it as affecting as a lot of other people have.
No, there was a few times I thought this is I wouldn't say like deep commentary, but interesting commentary.
Yeah.
With it. But I want to move us on to speaking of commentary, the comedy song, which I think is a clear example of that commentary thing, where the whole premise of the song is like, hey, things are kind of sad right now. Should I be telling jokes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that seems, the message is yes, you should. But in a kind of funny way to get there. I'm sure people will disagree with me on that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the message of the song.
No, it's not really the message. You're right. I don't know why I thought that. I would have just thought that the message is more it's not really a message. It's just kind of posing the question.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think it has a message. It's not really resolved. It's almost like, which it's kind of something he says about himself later in the special, where he's talking about how if he like criticizes himself, somebody else can't criticize him or whatever, which he also says isn't true. But besides the point, it's kind of him verbally questioning to the audience everything he's doing as a recognition that he doesn't even know if he should be doing what he's doing right now. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think it like resolves. It's really just the posing of a question, which I think you said.
Mm-hmm. And I liked the line that really stuck with me, and I'm sure most people in the song, is the part where he's like, if your house is burning and full of smoke, call me up and I'll tell you a joke.
Yeah.
It's probably not it word for word. But that's the part where I thought the commentary of the song was really working.
Yeah.
Because it's questioning, it's kind of putting in perspective where people who instantly respond to, things are sad, but we still need to laugh. And it's like, well, sometimes things are too sad.
Yeah.
Like, if someone was in a burning building, you wouldn't tell them a joke. That's not a very good time for that.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point.
It's kind of forcing you to have like a slightly more critical lens than what most people would instinctually say as a response to this, which is, of course we need to laugh. Things are sad, but we still need to laugh. And he's like, well, not all the time.
Yeah. For me, okay, so the reprise of this song at the very, very end is probably, I think, my favorite song in the whole special. It gets stuck in my head all the time. So
There's no reprise of this song.
Yeah.
There's a goodbye song that pulls from a bunch of different songs.
Yeah, yeah, and this is in the very end.
Okay. I wouldn't call it a reprise.
Okay. I'm not attached to that word.
Okay. Reprise just means something very specific.
Does it?
Sorry, I think the musical person in me.
That's okay.
Is like how dare you? That means something. But like it doesn't, and I'm sure some actual professional musical theater nerd is like, it actually means this and it doesn't mean that. I would say it's a callback because he's just kind of like pulling a bunch of different lines from out the show.
Yeah. But anyway, that part is like my favorite part of the whole special. So for me, this song makes me excited for that song. If that makes sense, because I like that. Because in this song, he's like, he keeps saying, "Should I be joking at a time like this?" But in the when he calls it back at the end, it's like, "You really joking at a time like this?" And then it's, well, look who's inside again. But the voice has been altered in this kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but the voice has been altered a whole bunch, and I love that part, and I love it so much that it makes me like this song less, purely because it's not that one. Do you know what I mean? It's not that version that I like more than this one.
Again, I think we should stress this, though. Like, I don't think it's particularly deep commentary. Nothing in the show is, like, overly deep commentary. It's more so, it's just taking ideas you kind of already know, and it's just asking you to think a little different about them in a way that makes you a little uncomfortable.
Well, I don't...
Like, this one, it takes the idea of comedy is a good thing, but not always.
I don't know. It's hard to... I don't want to say it's not deep commentary, because like it's not for me as somebody who has been thinking about this stuff very deeply for a really long time. But like, I don't know. It doesn't mean that there's not layers in it. I don't want to say for sure that it's not deep.
I wouldn't say it's not layered. It's not... Being deep commentary doesn't mean it's not well-made commentary.
You're right. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. You're right. It's not deep, but it is well-made.
No, he's not saying any... Like, there's no point in the show where he says something that, like, hasn't been said before.
Yeah.
Like, when it's appropriate to joke, or how aging works, or what it's like to be isolated.
Yeah.
Like, none of these are new points, but the way he does them, it's really well constructed.
No, you're right.
And he tries to frame it in a different angle than other people have to make you think about it just a little differently than you did before. So your normal train of thought doesn't quite work.
Yeah. No, you're right. I really like how you described that. Yeah, I totally agree.
And with that, I think it's time to move on to... the FaceTiming with my mom's song, which I thought was probably tied for one of the weakest.
Yeah.
I didn't care. Like, it's bad. It's not bad at all.
Not bad.
It's just kind of generic comedy.
Yes.
That's all I have to say. And it's
You're
not
right.
bad again.
It's less...
But I could...
It's more of... Which we have a few of those early on they're far lighter, and I guess it depends what you want, but you're right, it's one of my least favorite, not meaning that I do still like it, and it does still make me chuckle because my mom does some of that, so, but it's far more, you're right, it's far more of a relatable comedy than commentary, which isn't bad, but yeah, I think it's definitely not on the top of my list.
Mm-hmm. And then How the World Works. This, I just think, is a really fun song.
Yes.
Above all else, because it has him with the puppet of the sock.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but like this special is very horny.
Yeah. but I think there's a better song that we'll get to soon that can talk about that.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. There's a don't put this in the special, but there's cows outside the window making beautiful love, and they're being very loud on my end. Okay, they've stopped. They just kind of wander around the field, and then cows, speaking of horny, cows get horny.
That's so funny though. Are you sure you want me to cut it out? Yeah, so the sock one is again kind of exactly how you said, not super deep, like, oh, history class doesn't teach us history very well. They really leave out all the bad stuff, like how many times have we talked about that?
But I like the way he did it, where he put himself as the oppressor, oppressing those who are speaking up.
Yeah.
And the joke is, it's his sock puppet.
Yeah.
Being the one speaking up. And that's the joke.
Yeah. No, again, how he did it was...
Which always makes jokes funnier when you explain them like that.
And I like the sort of like reference to kids content, and I don't know how kids content is now because I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't really watch it. But it was very how he was like speaking and with the sock puppet, very reminiscent of like TVO Kids back in the day, stuff like that.
Yes, it was well done kids framing for this joke, and it was really funny. I enjoy it every time, and it's one of those commentaries. It's not deep to say, hey, this isn't new, mm-hmm. but I like it a lot. How it's fun. He was like able to keep the funny and the commentary in such a good balance there, and but I also just like when things say, hey, the powerful are evil. Yeah. So that's just the social work activist in me. Mm-hmm. So next song. Yeah. This is probably one of my most enjoyed songs from the show. Mm-hmm. Not my best, but definitely up there. And that would be White Woman's Instagram.
Really? This is not my favorite, but I also don't dislike it. For me, this one is very similar to FaceTiming with my mom.
I know. It should be like that for me, because they're both very similar. It's not, even for the show's type of commentary, it's not particularly deep commentary. Yeah. That Instagram is kind of a way to fake individualism by doing what everyone else is doing, mm-hmm. but on your own. But I don't know. The jokes just work. I just laugh too much to not have it be one of my favorites.
I have seen some controversy that this song is like making fun, like it's like sexist, like it's making fun of women, or it's kind of like the basic bitch thing. Like how people were, anyway, like let women enjoy things type thing. But I really don't find that with this song. And I've heard it a lot, because I don't really get where people are coming from with that, because he never even really says anything negative.
It really is just I remember it only really being a list of things, of common tropes.
Like he literally says, is this heaven or White Woman's Instagram? Which is a positive connection. So it's like, you could be offended that he's pointing out that you're really similar to other white women, but the whole embracement of like the basic bitch movement of like, whatever, I'm gonna enjoy this even if people make fun of me for it, part of that is accepting that you might enjoy or do things that a lot of other people enjoy and do, and that's like not a bad thing. So I don't really get the negative vibes people are getting from this. Not a lot of people. I've just seen it kind of be a conversation. Also, I think there's this part in the song that I think is very important that I haven't heard anyone talk about, where he goes from being very very broad and, talking about like all white women, and then suddenly there's this very specific verse about whoever we're talking about, her like mom has died, and it's very specific and talking about, it's her talking to her mom who has died and how she misses her and like all of this stuff, and it goes from broad and talking about like many people to very specific but also very humanizing. So I think that even adds to it not being even like a negative song. What?
I thought that was pretty broad. I've seen many people on Instagram and Facebook and other social medias post those types of stories where a family member's died, and so they're posting a message to them, and they're like, hey mom, I miss you. Well, not mom normally, it's someone else, but point being, they post a long story about how they miss them, and they're doing great now, and they'd be so proud if they were here. So I've seen a lot of that, so I just thought that he was making fun of that aspect. I never would have thought it was a specific thing.
Huh. Maybe. I mean, I guess I don't know. That's like not how I read that at all, but I can see what you're saying. Maybe I'm reading it totally wrong.
No, I think it can be read both ways. Mm-hmm. But yeah. We have a few small songs now.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through those?
Yes.
Okay. I like Unpaid Intern.
Ooh, okay, so Unpaid Intern 1, really fun song. 2, this is when we have so kind of how I mentioned earlier on, Bo Burnham's, he's been on the internet a lot, and there's a lot of different references to internet culture in the special, which is very fun for someone like me to see, who's very sort of immersed in internet culture, and this is all very familiar to me. So he does a reaction video with this song, which is, it's not even related to the message of the song, which is about unpaid interns. But he does a very good impression of a reaction channel, basically, which I just found really fun. Everything referencing internet culture was like very entertaining for me.
Yes. I thought they were good. I kind of thought they were a little light on the commentary, but they were different commentary, so they were interesting enough, but they were not my favorite aspect. They're the stuff that I wouldn't want to watch again.
Really? That's so surprising. So the first time I watched this, I caught the second half of the special because my roommate was watching it, and then I just like happened to catch the second half. And the part where he is doing a fake stream where he's playing a video game, like that's what got me, and I was like, okay, I have to watch the rest of this. Mm-hmm. So I'm surprised that they weren't as much of a standout for you as they were for me, because I find, I've complained to you about this before, like normally when movies and stuff talk about the internet, the most common thing they fuck up is viral video. They have no concept of what a viral video would be, and it's always the stupidest shit. And it's almost embarrassing, because I'm like, you really think that we would be obsessed with this random fucking thing you made up? Anyway.
Yeah. So too many things go, they don't really understand the fundamentals of the internet online culture in the way that they need to convey their story. Yeah. It's always a little annoying.
Exactly. So like, for me, it was very novel to see someone who, like, got it.
But I was just kind of like, yeah, I know he got it, but other than that, it was just not that much for me. And then after this song, we had part 1 of our 2-part Jeffrey Bezos special.
I love these songs. They're so fun, and they're such a, I mean, it's like the classic, this is a classic thing to do, right? To like flip something, right? So we've all been talking about how we hate Jeffrey Bezos and he sucks and he's the worst. So having these sort of ironically flipped songs where we're cheering him on, they're just fun for some reason.
Yeah, they're fun. I don't think there's much more to say about them really than that they were enjoyable.
Well, I find I think it's the first one. It pumps me up. Like, I'm like, fucking, like, yeah, let's do it. Like, it makes me excited when I hear
it. I thought they were fun. They almost felt like just like things he thought of that day. Like, he just thought of a Jeffrey Bezos song a day, and then later in the year, he thought of another one. He's like, these are fun. So I didn't see them connected to anything else in the show.
No, they're 100% connected, because they're connected to our relationship with Amazon and consumerism, which is things he's talking about in this show.
Yeah, I see it. Like, the special could never go on Amazon Prime, because it's too ironically...
Well, I mean, it depends how much of a sense of humor Amazon Prime has.
Yeah, I feel like that he doesn't. So now on to the next song. Sexting.
Ugh. Okay, this one's definitely my least favorite. 100% because of what I was saying before. Like, just dick humor and stuff. What?
I like this song's fine. It's just not what I want to ever listen. I don't like listening to it again.
Yeah. Dick humor and stuff, it's just not my sense of humor. That being said, I do appreciate he does a lot of visual stuff for this one. Some of them he does more visual stuff than others. But I do appreciate when he has the emojis going over his face. I just think that's interesting because I was thinking about doing something with emojis. I just think emojis are an interesting thing to explore. But yeah, least favorite song. Sexting, comedy, I don't care. Also, there's this one line in it, not really a line, more like a very short story that always bothers me so much for no reason. He's complaining about how he takes a photo of his dick with the flash on, like just the flash, and it's a bad photo, so he doesn't want to send it. And he's like complaining about how the girl wants him to send it, but he doesn't want to send it because his dick looks bad. And I'm like, take another photo. Like, put more effort into this. You took a photo under the covers with just the flash on. Obviously, anything would look bad under those circumstances. And it makes me so mad he didn't put more effort into his fake nudes in the song.
I get that, yeah. I just have so little opinion of this song.
Yeah.
Like, I just have nothing to say about it. And it's one of the long songs, but I was like, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely my least favorite.
And then the next song, I don't remember this one, but it's called Look Who's Inside Again.
You don't remember Look Who's Inside Again?
Hold on.
Well, look who's inside again. Went out to look for a reason to hide again. Okay, Inside. I love Inside. It's probably one of my favorites.
It's kind of just the theme of the show to me, but I enjoy it, but I don't like get excited about it. It's just kind of ever present, but I enjoy it because of the comments he's making about like the struggle to be funny in an isolated room. I think that's important to the show.
Well, I think also it's speaking to, as we go further, his he implied that he was struggling with agoraphobia basically like before the pandemic hit, and then kind of when he was feeling less anxious and a bit better about things, the pandemic hit and we weren't allowed to go outside anymore. So it's also,
I think it was just more broad anxiety. I don't know if it was necessarily agoraphobia.
I think he references it in one song, otherwise I wouldn't say that, but it could have been just general anxiety. I'm not sure. But I think he references agoraphobia. But anyway. So yeah, I think it's also talking about just, anxiety and how going outside is hard sometimes, but also staying in is hard.
Yeah. It's just everything is hard.
Yeah.
That would have been a funny line for the sexting song.
Yeah.
But yeah. The next song is it's my favorite. No, it's tied for my favorite.
What is it?
But it's probably a little higher, maybe. I don't know. But it's definitely up there. It's Problematic.
Problematic is good. It's interesting because as we go through, and I'm kind of only realizing this as we go through song by song, we kind of start out more like we see this with Instagram and what was this one called? Problematic. They're kind of shot more like music videos. And then as we go on, well, you can see it with the first song actually. But as we go on, he starts using more sort of like lighting, and mostly lighting and projection to keep us visually entertained and create sort of like a visual narrative. But yeah, so Problematic is more of the music video type set up for it, and I love the like fitness theme he went with. It's very
I thought it was a reference to like Flashdance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Which, speaking of, so there's a lot of talk online on TikTok of people being very attracted to him in this special, more so than they've ever been before, which makes sense to me because he has a very different vibe in this special than he has previously. But part of that, and I saw a TikTok about this, I don't remember the creator's name, is he often presents himself in a very like feminine way throughout this special, which can just be very attractive, and that's like also apparent in this song, also in later ones.
Oh my gosh!
What?
He's presenting himself as Jesus in this song.
What?
Yeah, he goes on the wall with the cross.
That's because, no, he's not presenting himself as Jesus. He is, like, fuck, what's that word? Prostrate? Prostrate? I think it's prostrate. Anyway, whether there's Jesus or not, he's still often presenting himself in a feminine way.
You're going to tick off a whole bunch of religious people with it. A lot of the extreme religious people with that line.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all watching our podcast.
I know.
It doesn't matter, but I'm talking about the entire special.
I never saw that.
Okay, well, it is there.
I saw it in White Woman Instagram, but that's because that's White Woman Instagram.
Yes, it's definitely in White Woman Instagram, but it's also in this, and it's kind of a theme throughout.
Yeah, I guess I can see some moments of it, but I wouldn't have thought it was necessarily a theme. But I want to talk about Problematic, because I like Problematic so much. I think it's funny, I like it has a fun energy to it, and I like that the joke, halfway through, switches from him being like, guys, I was problematic before, when I was younger, to, hey guys, I was a little problematic at the start of the song, but don't worry, I've grown so much. And it also was a great YouTube
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Which was the only time I thought the internet commentary went really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other stuff was good, but like this was really good. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard so many YouTubers say that sort of thing before.
Yes.
And I love how he's framing it like, hey guys, at the start of the song, I was trying to blame my my youth, but don't worry, I've grown so much since the start of singing this song.
Yes, no.
I just think it's so funny.
I'm so excited you noticed that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, how often do you see a YouTuber do something, and then in their apology, they're like, that was 2 weeks ago, I'm a different person now. Like, I've really thought and grown over this time, which he does, but like over the course of 30 seconds, which is where the comedy is. If I don't know if you know how a joke works.
It just worked so well,
mm-hmm.
and I just thought it was funny above all else. I just thought it was funny. And it makes me happy every time.
I also do appreciate him calling himself out when no one was really actively mad at him right now, which I think also can work as a a preventative measure, where it's like, I'm calling myself out, so now you guys can't call me out, but also could easily backfire. So I think it's still a cool thing for him to have done.
Yes, I just think it was so I think it was such a fun way to do that commentary.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that they did it, and I don't know, I just can't get over how well he captured the YouTube apology, where they've grown throughout the song.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get to the end of Act 1 with the song 30.
Mm-hmm.
this was the song that I think people who said they related to it related to.
Yes.
And I know that probably because the YouTubers I watch, they're all kind of in that turning 30 age, where they're like, they can't really be young. They can't be like that juvenile youth anymore, because they're like getting married and having families.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work for them anymore to be like, ooh, let's run around in our underwear and be goofy type of humor.
Yeah.
And I've seen them struggle with it. And I just noticed a lot of the ones that I've seen struggling with that were also the ones that were like, this special was just so deep.
Yes. No, I also related to this song, but I also did find it a little annoying because I have, for me personally, people being self-aware is very important to me. And I think it's a little bit annoying of Bo Burnham to be like, oh, I'm turning 30, and when I was 27, all I did was build a birdhouse with my mom. Because it's like, okay, fuck you. You're Bo Burnham. You've done a lot, and you've accomplished a lot, and whether you still feel inferior or not, I do think you have a responsibility to recognize that you have accomplished a lot. So it's annoying as someone who hasn't accomplished half of what Bo Burnham has for him to be like, I haven't done anything. Which isn't a problem I have just with him specifically. I don't like when anyone ignores the positives that they have to like complain about their lack of that exact thing, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're meaning in the sense that Bo Burnham being upset that he hasn't achieved anything when he's Bo Burnham. Yes. He was just in an Oscar-winning film. He's had multiple specials purchased by Netflix. Yes. And multiple tours. He himself has been very successful, but I think he was less so. I felt, the commentary wouldn't work if you use Bo Burnham for this song. You'd have to change a lot more of the song to reflect that. And I think he was aiming, or at least what I was getting, was the goal was to be very broad. Like, not his specific reaction to 30, but what a lot of people nowadays react to 30.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, it's serious times now. So
yeah. No, and like, serious. That's fair. Like, it would be, well, would it even be more difficult? I don't even know if it would be that much more difficult, because the thing is that the feelings are valid. Like, I think it's scary to turn 30 no matter what. And the feelings, I feel like everyone I've talked to who turns 30, I turned 30 in 4 years, which feels crazy. Like, you don't feel like you're 30 yet. Like, it doesn't feel like that should be happening. So all the feelings he's describing, if he is indeed having those, are like valid, but it's like, even just a one line of like acknowledgement of like, oh, like, I don't know, I was in this movie, but I feel like I didn't do anything. I don't know. I'm not the writer.
I don't know. I think that would have ruined the song, because you or the audience most people can't relate to his type of success.
Yeah.
Most people will never get that. Not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but most people will not be half as successful as he is right now. But, and that commentary can be done. I've seen Taylor Swift do that type of commentary where she's like, yeah, I've been very successful, but when I turn 30, a lot of it's probably going to stop, because that's when you kind of transition to being old and people don't like you when you're old. Mm-hmm. And that type of commentary could have worked for this song, but it would have left a very different and I think a lot less impactful remark.
Yeah.
Because it, like, in the same way, I don't feel super bad if Taylor Swift doesn't become as successful as she was in her 20s, because Taylor Swift was wildly successful in her 20s. Yeah. So to have that lessened, I still feel bad in the sense that age alone is the reason why that's happening. And for him too, mm-hmm. he feels there's like this dread of age makes you more relevant. But if he was to bring in his work in the way that you're describing, I think it would have hurt the impact of the song, because he would have had a line there like, oh, I would have done my Oscar movie would have only... I've never been nominated for an Oscar just in my Oscar movie. And then we would have been like, oh, well, I'm never going to get an Oscar movie. Yeah. So,
well, okay, I get what you're saying in that it would make the song in isolation less relatable. But for me personally, without him mentioning it, I have all those thoughts that you're describing. So I'm like, why are you, like, you're not me. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're so much more successful. And you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't separate, like, I still have those thoughts, but yeah, I guess that's not an issue for everyone.
Well, I don't think you're a big believer in the death of the author philosophy. You don't separate art from artists.
It's complicated. I do sometimes. It's a very case-by-case basis. I can't. But, yeah.
I think the reason he didn't do that was very intentional. That he wanted you to feel like this song
was about you.
About you, yeah. Not about him. Like, there's songs in this show about him, but this one was for you. It was told through his perspective, but it was for you.
Yeah.
So to bring up, I'm extremely successful, but I'm still not that successful. People who aren't successful or feel, or like, aren't his level of success can't, like, it would turn them off to the message, because they'd be like, I'm not successful, I probably never will be, yeah. So, guess I'll just go back to my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Won't have any more of my Netflix specials picked up.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, okay.
So now intermission happens, which is like 5 seconds.
1 second.
You're supposed to pause it.
Okay, sorry, my phone got stuck in my hair. Okay.
Your phone got stuck in your hair?
Yeah, my case is broken, so it got, like, caught on the broken part. Anyway, I wanted to say something about this, because when we come back from intermission, he's, like, cleaning this pane of glass, and throughout the special, he does a lot of things which are very common in experimental film, and I don't know if he knew this. Like, I don't know if he's a watcher of experimental film, or if they're just kind of things that are common when you were exploring more experimental practices. But the thing, like the use of imposition, he has multiple shots going into the camera lens. They're all kind of very common. Almost, part of me, I feel like he hasn't watched a lot of experimental film, because I feel like they're often the first things you do going into it. Not that they're bad, but that they're familiar. So I just thought that was a really interesting theme throughout the special, and also something I found to be very brave, which I appreciate, because going into things that are kind of like experimental film, and they go more towards art than comedy. Not that comedy is, it's requires a type of bravery in and of itself, but some of the stuff he does in this special, he had to take the leap of faith that we would take it seriously, or it would look ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that he was willing to do that. He was willing to risk looking silly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed there was some experimental ideas in there, but I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them, but I'm not an experimental film.
Yeah. I think that's
connoisseur, so I'm not good at noticing
that's
stuff
also
like that.
Speaking to his audience, right? Because he has a pre-existing audience from people who are fans of him, but he's more speaking to, he's expecting kind of everyday people and fans of his comedy to be watching this who wouldn't normally be familiar with they wouldn't be familiar with experimental film, so none of this would be as sort of old hat as it is to me. Not that I've watched that many experimental films, but you know.
So the thing about the song Don't Know, which will be our kind of my last comment on this area before we move on, I think, is I felt guilty when they called me out. He called me out, so I was writing my notes on my phone. And then in the middle of the song, he's like, hey, are you even watching me, or are you on your phone? And I felt so guilty. I didn't take notes for the rest of the show.
Every time I'm doing something else while watching this special, I think about this song. And I'm like, he's going to be mad at me. I also really like the song. It gets stuck in my head.
I like the song.
It's got a good
I just always feel guilty while listening to it because he always calls me out when I'm on my phone.
Yes. It has a good mixture of melancholic and kind of lighthearted, which is a fun mixture. And it's also, again, a commentary of our lack of attention span and our relationship with our phones. And it's, again, not deep, but well done in that he's directly calling us out, almost as you would in like a normal comedy special when they like call out people in the audience. But it's like a far gentler way of doing it.
Yeah. I just thought it was a gentle way of saying, hey, get off your phone.
Yeah.
And then there was the song after entitled Shit.
Yeah.
Which, it was kind of one of the weaker comedy songs.
Really? I don't find it weaker. So this one, before I saw this special, because all of these songs are very popular on my TikTok, at least. I've seen jokes that only depressed people are getting these songs all over their TikTok, which I'm not depressed, but I am familiar. So this one was the first one I heard going around. Like a lot of people were, I don't know, lip syncing to it. It's probably one of my favorite of the comedy ones.
I just thought it was another comedy song. I didn't have much thought. I really just didn't have much thought about it at all.
Yeah.
And then All Time Low is the next song. And I don't remember that one at all.
I think that's the one. It's very, very short. He's talking about how his mental health is at an all-time low. And then he sings about basically having a panic attack when he's awake. Which, though, this brings me to an interesting point about this special. I've seen a lot of discussion on what is real or not, and if he was really experiencing any of the things he was experiencing, which there's no way you can know for sure unless he tells us. When he's shooting, there's a lot of different clips throughout the special where he's distressed or kind of staring into space. Do I think those were super genuine? Probably not, because we have to remember that he's setting all this up. So he would have had to set up the camera and the lighting. He probably would have taken multiple takes. So, like, is it real in that sense? Probably not, because of, like, function. Like, I don't know how he would have been able to film that himself. But, was he actually experiencing this stuff? I don't know, unless he told us. I think I don't have any problem with people speaking on issues they don't have. I do think I have a little bit of problem if people present the issues as though they do have them and then they don't. So I don't know how I would...
Well,
Sorry, go.
He seemed to have... I have no reason to not believe he had all the things he described in this show. So to me, it's a non-issue. It's like, he says he did, so he did.
Yeah.
Like, unless there comes out evidence that he didn't, but, like, I don't know what type of evidence that would be.
I don't think...
Like a therapist note that says, hey, this person definitely has 0 anxiety attacks between 2015 and 20.
It's not like people trying to call him out, like being like, hey, you lied. It's more like a question of what's real and what's not. And I don't know if that's really, I didn't personally read that as one of the central themes of the special. I don't think that's really the point, personally.
Well, I don't think he did. Like, the special's fake because it's a special.
Yeah.
It's like a stand-up special.
Exactly.
Or anything. It's like, this person prepared and rehearsed and wrote all this stuff out and planned a format and stuff.
Yeah.
And there might be a few moments like that were unintentional, but worked with what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a few times where he was singing the songs and he, like, tried it a few times. And I bet that was just him recording for an hour.
Well,
I cannot hear a word you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know what you did, but you moved away from the mic.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Better.
But you can't hear me very well?
Yeah, you moved away from the mic.
I haven't done anything. It's probably your phone, which is broken.
Well, don't blame my broken phone. Blame your broken phone. My phone hasn't gotten caught in my hair once during this whole podcast.
Oh, I remember. Okay, we can't guarantee that any of that was real or off the cuff, because he has done a joke before in a stand-up special where he, like, starts and he's like, oh, I'm just gonna take a drink of water, guys, and then he, like, takes a drink of water, and then there's a song that's like, you thought that was, like, improv, but it was planned because I made the song about it, blah blah. Like, so he's done stuff like that before. So
yeah, some of it was probably faked or recorded unintentionally and added after, or recorded intentionally and then picked this one.
Yes.
Like, that doesn't matter to me.
Me neither. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't personally, because that has been a big talking point. Personally, I don't see that as a central theme, and I don't think it's necessarily important what was real and what wasn't.
I think we're doing that thing we regularly do where we both argue for the same point, but we argue as if the other one is strongly disagreeing.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I agree. Thank you very much. Have a good night. You too. And besides, it's time to move on to what is probably the most widespread song by this point, or the song that's had arguably the most legs.
Is it The Internet?
Welcome to the Internet.
Oh, this one is so good. It's such a tune.
It's one of those songs that really does make it feel almost having a musical quality.
Yeah,
just because
it's so well crafted, and he pulls so much into it. Like, I think it's one of the more intricate songs.
And I think, again, it's one of those songs, it's not very deep commentary to be like, hey guys, did you know the internet is problematic? Mm-hmm. But it's the formatting where he's setting it up as in, hey, we have this thing that gives you everything.
It's just, the verbiage is so clever too. Like, a little bit of everything all of the time. Like, that feels like a classic line. That's all of the time. It feels like a classic line that has to have existed before now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, obviously we would have said that before, but we didn't.
And I like the part, apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime.
Oh, it's fucking bars.
No, it's just, honestly, the video part of it, I didn't care as much for.
Really? Because I was going to say that this is a really good example of his progression of how he was doing stuff, and where in this he was doing live projection, which if you compare this to Problematic, you can see a very, like, dramatic difference in like how he's filming things, which I just think is interesting. In this one, he uses.
I noticed the difference. I just thought it was kind of.
It wasn't
like it was standard. It was just normal for me.
I liked it.
Just a normal scene, but the song is so catchy that I just love it on its own.
I find it very impressive watching him do the lighting, the projection changes live. I just find that as someone who has filmed myself quite a few times at this point, that's like impressive for me to watch, if that makes sense. Also, we have to give a heads up, that's the wrong phrase, props to his evil laugh in this song, which is such a good evil laugh. I'm impressed every time I hear it. Like, I think it's really hard to do an evil laugh, and that's a good evil laugh.
I think, yes, I agree that it's hard to get a good evil... Hello?
Hello.
Okay, sorry, bumped my phone. I think it's very hard to get a good evil laugh. I remember once Glenn Close did a whole late night talk show interview where she talked about her evil laugh for Cruella, and I thought it was so interesting because she had she did so much work to get it right, I agree, a good evil laugh is just so hard to get good, and this does that, but it kind of in its own way to fit with the vibe of the song.
I also am normally, in a lot of my digital work, I'm very defensive of the digital. And he's very critical of it in this special, but I'm not ignorant to the negatives of the digital. And I find for some reason him in the special doesn't really raise my hackles, and I feel like it's because he's so familiar with it. So there's a very obvious love-hate relationship since he's been very active on the internet for 10 plus years. It's kind of like he knows it, so he's allowed to hate it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's for my experience anyway, because I often get defensive when I find people are only being negative. But I don't really find myself getting that defensive in this special.
Yeah. The video was to me just kind of his first the content one, but more fleshed out. Mm-hmm. So I was less impressed at this point because I knew he could do this. I thought it was well done and respectable, but the song's just so good it stole the show from me.
Yeah, the song is so good.
Now it's time for what could be considered a reprise, but I think it's titled Bezos 2. More Bezos, which is just fun.
Yeah.
I like the more Bezos songs, but I don't think there's much more to say about that.
It is what it is. It's good.
That funny feeling.
Yeah.
You take the start on this one.
I really like this one. It's got a very sad tone. It's very by the campfire, which is actually how he set up sort of the vibe of the video for this one. But yeah, I really like it. I've seen a lot of people do their own verses and add on to it. It has kind of similar to the Welcome to the Internet, the a little bit of everything all of the time. I find that funny feeling has kind of had legs in terms of I've seen it that funny feeling referenced now outside of the song in terms of the contradictions of the modern world we live in. It's kind of come to encapsulate that, and people are using that phrase now to mean that, and we're all kind of understanding what they're saying.
This might make you upset when I say this, but I have this song left no impact in me.
Really?
To the point I cannot remember it.
You can't remember it?
Outside of the fact that he plays the guitar. I genuinely have no impact on me.
You should have watched this 5 times before we recorded it.
Well, I might... Well, considering the fact that we're recording this while I'm laying on a table with a landline. I think we can understand my internet situation is too limited to watch this more than once. I don't know. It happened. I'm like, yeah, there was a song after the internet song. Maybe I was just so hyped up after the internet song.
Yeah, that is.
That like anything that followed it after, I would have been like, what is this?
That is very reasonable.
But I don't think that's what this is fully. I just think that this was just not me. But I'm also, I am against the music genre that I entitle sad guy with a guitar.
This is a sad guy with a guitar, so I can understand.
It's the same. I also have the same philosophy of sad woman with a piano, and I did steal those titles from an online content creator, but I stand behind them. I'm just not a fan of that type of sad. Like, it's just a person, and they're sad with their instrument, and they're going to tell you about how they're sad while playing their instrument.
I'm fine with
but only their
instrument. I like sad people with instruments.
But I don't think most. I have very high standards for sad songs with one instrument. I'm like, you have to floor me if you want me to have any chance of enjoying this. So I guess I'll say that's probably what my issue is.
That makes sense.
When I really can't remember the song. Like, I've been trying this the whole time to think of one line from it. And I'm like, I can't remember anything. I don't even know if the words "that funny feeling" is in the song.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then.
All eyes on me.
Right. Okay, so this is clearly the climax of the special.
Continue or start your point again?
It's the one where he grabs the camera. It's the most violent.
Yeah. I liked that he's like describing of his personal matters over the first personal struggles with his mental health over the past few years. I thought that was interesting and well done. And you're right. It was less of a song to me and more like a clip to music. Like, it was a acting piece that had to have music with it, because I don't really think of it as a song. I just think of it as he's telling the story. And this one's just with music.
I don't know if you're misremembering that being longer than it was.
It's very long. It's
No, the part where he talks about the tour and stuff is pretty short.
But the song as a whole is the longest one. It was the second longest one in the whole special.
Yeah.
So it's quite long, but I know it's not just that scene, but the singing in the parts before and after, I think of that as almost like a warm-up and a conclusion to the speech rather than the song with a speech in the middle.
It definitely works into like the theme of the song, because like it's very much about his relationship to performing and his relationship to the audience. I really like how he frames this. I really like the super close-up of his face. I really like all the impositions from different angles. Yeah.
I thought it was just fine. It was more a speech than a song to me, like a speech with music before and after than the song. Because I
definitely see it as a song. But yeah.
And then what's not technically the final song, but for all intents and purposes really is the final song. Goodbye.
What do you mean it's not technically the final song?
There's one after.
There is?
Yeah, but I think that's the one where he like leaves the door and there's like music in the background and stuff.
Oh, that's not like a song that he sings though.
It's on the soundtrack.
Weird.
I'm basing all this on the soundtrack.
So the end of Goodbye is my favorite song in the whole special.
Yes, I thought Goodbye was a great conclusion because it was it was well written. It was nice. It was a type of beautiful, and it was woven elements from the whole show. And I liked how just on like a creator side, I liked how he he wrote it really early.
Yeah.
And you could see it with the short hair as like a visual indicator of just, this is not why he probably put it in. But for me, I got like this was really well planned. Because he wrote so much, like,
well, I think it was
before.
like, I do think his growing hair throughout the special, I do think that is, I mean, it's a side effect of just life, but I do think that is purposeful in showing us time moving.
Yes.
Throughout the whole thing. Like, the amount of time he is stuck is a talking point in the special. So that I do think that is on purpose.
Yes, I thought it was on purpose. I don't think he put it in the special to be like, I planned this so well. When he did that, I think it was to show the time lapse. But I thought of it as like wow, he planned this so well, because he had like a conclusion to the special written before he basically had filmed the rest of the special. So he like mentally knew the whole time where he wanted it to go.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's really cool. I also, the final shot of this song, not the special, but with the spotlight where he's suddenly naked, I also really like that. I think it's really striking, and it's very vulnerable, which is also sort of like a theme throughout the special.
It's a good vulnerability, and it also plays into the comedy as well, because it's like, oh, he's naked, that's funny, but it's also serious, and kind of it works with his anxieties to like feel naked, but also he's naked.
Yeah, it's a constant. There's a constant reference to being looked at, which also the spotlight here. We've seen circles and spotlights throughout the special, but then the spotlight here, really well transitions into the last scene of the special, where we're seeing the light through the door, right? And we're gonna leave, and it's just a shot of his face, and it's very bright, and it looks like he's walking out into the day. And then when he actually leaves, it's revealed it's like night, and there's just a big spotlight on him.
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was him walking. He thought he was going into freedom, but him's walking out onto the stage, onto the performance.
Yeah.
Why night? Why'd you say night?
Because it's dark.
Stage? Okay.
I'm just talking about like the actual visuals. I do, like, it is on stage.
Okay. I just saw it as him like walking out into the stage and like being really scared to be out there again. And so he was like resistant to that. And like the fear that...
You're not disagreeing. You just don't like that I said night.
I don't like that I said night because I have no idea where you got night from.
Because it was dark. You wouldn't light daytime, even if it was on a stage. You wouldn't light daytime like that.
Okay, we're moving on because I have no idea how to respond further.
I'm not attached to it being night. It looked like night.
Good, don't be attached to it being night because it's not night.
Okay, fine. It's just dark then.
But yeah, I thought that scene was good.
It's very good. It's very Truman Show.
Yes, it's not like subtle commentary, but it's well made commentary.
And it's a fun ending because he leaves, but then he can't leave. He's leaved, but then he hasn't left, and then he wants to go back inside, and he can't go back inside.
Yeah, the whole being outside was scary, so he wants to go back in. But once you leave, once you go out to people, like once you're out there for people, you can't really just go back in.
Yeah. Also, the audience, like, laughing at his struggle, like, there's definitely commentary there with, like, especially, I feel like this is also specific to him, but also to everyone, in that, like, when he comes out, he's gonna have to talk to a stage full of people, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that concludes the show. So, the closest thing that I could compare this show to, because there's really nothing like it, but the closest thing I could think of, and I thought of it a few times, was Nanette by
Me
Hannah
too!
Gibson.
I was going to say that!
Or Gibbsy, I think is her last name. Anyway, it's like taking a comedy special and kind of having a lot more serious moments.
Yes. Which I haven't heard, and I could just be wrong, but I haven't heard this referred to as a comedy special. I've just heard it referred to as a special.
I've heard it more often referred to as a comedy special, but
okay.
I see it as just more a special, generic. Because
I think we need a new name, because we've had a few of these now, which are branded as comedy specials, and they really aren't. And it's not that they're bad, but it's like they aren't a comedy special, even if they might be funny sometimes. But yes, I 100% was thinking about Nanette too.
The sad comedy special.
It's like, it's more of like, I don't even know what to call them, but I like them.
I think they're hard to do. That's why most people don't do them, because you have to be so vulnerable, and most people won't be that vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So I almost don't want to make a name for it, because if you make a name for it, people will try to do it, and then they will do it poorly and ruin it.
I don't think people trying and failing to do them would ruin it.
Well, I don't think they would go into it with like the noble intention, or not the noble intention, but with the pure intention to do this.
But I don't think that's bad.
I think they would go into it with it's a special but deeper, and it would only have half the impact, and I think it would ruin what is otherwise like a really good idea that's kind of happening.
No. So I completely disagree. I don't think that's how life works. Like, having the existence of bad movies don't make good movies worse. I don't think
when too many bad movies happen, people get turned off from whatever that genre or theming was. People stop giving it chances, so studios stop making them, and so they stop happening. Which is why
but that could happen just as easily now.
But that's why I don't want to name it, because if you name it, you give it power, and when you give it power, people will want that power, so they will try it, and then people who will try it are people who may not be the best ones to try it, and it will fail.
I inherently disagree.
Okay, I know you do, but I think we're going to stalemate on that issue. Also for timing.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to the show?
Final thoughts. I really like it. I'm surprised by how much I like it, and I think the thing that really drives it over the edge for me is any problems I might have with like the narrative or anything like that might not exactly be my thing. The songs are so catchy, and I feel like that is really what pulls me in, is the songs get stuck in my head and I can't stop singing them, and the songs are just like fun, and I feel like that's what really makes the special for me.
Yeah, I think the songs make the special, but that's also what most of the special is, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something right in this special, the songs were the right thing to do. So,
yeah, I think they help, true.
And it's an enjoyable show I recommend you check out, but make sure you go into it not expecting to laugh as much as enjoy.
Yes, that's a very good way to describe it.
And make sure you also are prepared for emotions if the ideas talked about are ones that resonate with you. Mm-hmm. Because they hit some people hard.
Yes.
So, yeah. I think that concludes the show.
It does.
So, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time at the campfire.
You did the outro so good.
Thank you.
Do you have it memorized? I have the intro memorized.
I have the outro memorized.
Wow, you're such a fast one.
Okay, hold on, let me stop recording.